Chicago Chamber of Commerce came down and we're meeting with legislators, and I talked to almost everybody in that room, every business person, and I asked them, is this a real issue for you? Yes. Yesterday, we recognized on the floor of the House Winnebago Industries, and I went over and I asked the CEO, is this a real issue for you? Absolutely, yes, this is a real issue for them. The federal government provided for bonus depreciation because they wanted to see businesses reinvest, expand, add new machinery and equipment. If Iowa does not couple, Iowa businesses will not be able to take advantage of it. And those that do will see an increase in their Iowa taxes. The fact of the matter is, the majority party has a decision they have to make. They're either going to allow Iowans to take advantage of this and get a small tax break, or they're not. And any Iowa businesses that expand and purchase new machinery and equipment in the next year will see an increase in taxes. Maybe that's their secret plan to balance their budget, is have this as a revenue source. And talking with Mr. Underwood, one of my members, Dr. David Underwood, who's on the Revenue Estimating Conference, acknowledges that Iowa will get a windfall if we don't take action because of federal deductibility. Their federal tax liability goes down, so their Iowa tax liability would go up. This is important. If we're truly interested in getting Iowa's economy moving faster and stronger, then we need to pass this. I talked to Representative Kelly yesterday personally because I didn't want to just have a floor fight. I went to her and I asked her if she would include coupling with the federal tax code, and she's the floor manager of the IRC update bill. I said, I'll file the amendment, but I'm happy to work in a bipartisan way to do it. If it means co-sponsoring the amendment with Representative Kelly, I'd be willing to withdraw mine and do that too. So I think it's a real issue, and I think it's one the General Assembly needs to deal with next week.
Do you think it's going to come up as quickly as next week?
Well, it's eligible. I mean, it's eligible tomorrow. They need, the Department of Revenue and Finance is I know, pushing this legislation to be dealt with one way or the other.
Right.
It's eligible next week. If I was the majority leader, I'd want to get it dealt with. I mean, you've got accountants, CPAs, people who are preparing their taxes who want to know about the existing Iowa law. And if you're a business person looking forward, which rules do we live by? Do I make this purchase this year, or do I hold off on purchasing new capital equipment until the following year? It's February. It's about into March. Let's make this decision and move forward. Secondly, and this issue I'm sure will be even more boring. The governor's done a couple things in the last 48 hours in regards to education that I am disappointed by. First of all, the governor's willingness to use the local option sales tax dollars for purposes other than infrastructure, specifically to pour it into salaries. I think that's a terrible mistake on the governor's part. I'm not sure the governor appreciates the fact that you have many property poor school districts in the state that they have to use sales tax dollars for infrastructure needs. If the governor were to allow, if the governor would have his way and allow sales tax dollars to be used for things like salaries or other programming, well, he throws Iowa's entire education formula at risk because there's no equitable way for all school districts to do that. So I think it's just a terrible, terrible mistake on the governor's part to even entertain that idea. And there's nothing more I'd like to see than for him to say that he would actually oppose such a move. I understand, standing before the Iowa State Education Association, the teachers union has come out and repeatedly asked for that. They have it on their website, they've distributed materials, it's on their agenda that they want to see the local option sales tax dollars used for purposes other than infrastructure. And I understand that it's tough to tell an audience like that no when they've poured thousands of dollars into his campaign. But this is a case where the governor needs to step up and tell that special interest group no. He's done other things to help them. This shouldn't be one of them. Second thing he's done in the last couple of days is he's come out in favor and apparently said that the Shane John legislation over in the Senate on Model Core curriculum is adequate. I think you asked me about that last week or 2 weeks ago. Here's the problem. Of and by itself, Senator Shane John's legislation on Model Core curriculum, that's okay. But that's a starting point. That's not the finishing point. House Republicans said before session started, and we're going to keep saying until the end of session, that it's higher education standards that we need to have. If you just set curriculum, you're deciding what textbooks you're using. You're not talking about what we expect our children to know after they graduate from school. First thing, you set high education standards. As Representative Rackert and Representative Wise are trying to do in their legislation, that while it may be bipartisan, this governor and this Department of Education is opposed to. That's a mistake on their part. We have a bipartisan attempt to try to set high standards, really come up with that gold standard. That ought to be the first step we take. Second step is looking at assessments. Third step is once you decide what the standards are and how you're going to assess it, then you develop model core curriculum to help meet those standards. But for the governor to say the model core curriculum is all the more work that we need to do, he's letting down the kids of Iowa. And he's letting down Iowa employers as well, as far as determining what we expect from our children. So those are my 2 boring things for the day.
Do his comments on silo pretty much guarantee it's not going to pass this session?
Well, I think it makes it extremely problematic. I realize that a lot of the Democrats are now sort of, well, that's not what the governor meant to say. If that's not what the governor meant to say, he'll come out and he'll promise he'll veto any legislation that diverts that money. And I don't think he's going to do that. I wish that he would. But frankly, it's what a lot of us have been concerned about from day one, that all along the governor and the Democrats were going to scoop that money and use it for another purpose. The ISEA has been lobbying to have that done. The governor signaled his willingness yesterday. I thought that was an appropriate use of the money. It ought to scare a lot of school boards, frankly. Those property poor school districts, like a Waterloo, like a Sioux City, like a Des Moines, they ought to be extremely concerned about the governor's comments. Because that's an acknowledgement on the governor's part that he doesn't understand the school aid formula, and that the governor of the state doesn't understand the issue of equity and how you fund school districts across the state so that all children have the same learning opportunities. Because if you use this as a method of paying teachers, you've thrown the issue of equity and treating all children equally right out the window. The governor of the state should know better than that.
If Democrats come to you and trying to say, because you're one of the critics of the statewide sales tax credit, have they been coming to you today and saying, no, we promise, we promise they?
I don't believe them.
But have
They have not. They have not. It's the Republicans that come to me and say, well, this is what the Democrats are saying. But I also know that the Republicans who have been supportive of this legislation are equally disappointed in the governor's comments.
Mike Ronstall said this morning, you guys are just looking for an excuse not to vote for this. He used the word chicken.
No, I think it's a bad idea. I don't need any excuse. I think it's a bad idea, specifically for this reason. Specifically because the governor and the Democrats will use the money for other purposes and destroy any semblance of property tax equity or any semblance of equity in how we fund children in this state. It's a bad idea to use it for other purposes. And even those people who push this legislation say that they don't want this to happen. Some of them do. So it goes right to the issue. The governor should know better. He should have known better yesterday.
Can it be salvaged before we get to the session?
I don't know. I'm not interested in passing the legislation, so I have no interest in salvaging it. But here's what could be done, Charlotte. Okay, well, let's say the governor's comments have had such a negative, have the ripple effect of the governor's comments have doomed this piece of legislation. Okay, there are 2 things that could be done to still advance the issues of putting more dollars to local school infrastructure and property taxes. Okay, so here's an alternative for those advocates who want to see something happen. The first thing they do is they bring up Representative Timeson's bill in Education Committee that takes us from the 575 capped amount of sales tax dollars that goes to school infrastructure. They lift that cap and they move to a rolling average, so that all school districts in the future will see more than $575. It goes anywhere from $670 to $760 per pupil to be used for school infrastructure and property tax relief across the state over the next 10 years. That's the first thing they could do to try to salvage something out of this, is to pass Representative Timeson's bill. The second thing that they could do, because the advocates of this legislation want to see property tax relief, is they could put additional dollars through the appropriations process into the property tax equity fund. We're spending $1 billion this year. Heck, as I think Representative Kuhn said on the floor yesterday, they're still committed to $25 million for the power fund, even though we haven't even spent the power fund money from last year yet. Instead of put $25 million in the power fund, put $25 million in the property tax equity fund and provide Iowans some property tax relief. We still have a $547 million property tax problem staring us in the face. Put $25 million to some property tax relief. They could do both of those things, accomplish the goals of the backers of this piece of legislation, and take the governor's mess that he created yesterday and put it on the back burner.
They say that mess doesn't really have any effect, that their plan has been not to use that for discretionary purposes, that it would only be for infrastructure and for property tax relief, and